Thank you, Arjo. Right. So Siddharth, I'm sharing my screen, right, for the PPT?
Yes, morning, Sonia. Hi. Yes, you are.
Good morning. I am not able to share it, saying one.
Let me just stop it, and then you would be.
Let's see. So do I go into advanced sharing options?
Just click on share screen, and once you do, select on the tab or PPT that you want to share, and then just click on share.
Okay, I tried that, but it is.
If you want, I can pull up the slides for you.
Yeah, I think you'll have to, because now I have a message I can't get rid of.
Sure. Do you want me to move to the second slide?
Yeah. Please, right. So good morning, everybody. I hope you all had a great Saturday. I have a lot of material to cover, so let's get started. So as many of you know, I work in the Career Services Division at ISBF, and one of the things we do is we help students get campus placements. And this academic year, we thought we could further help the students by creating a placement module, which is really an extensive soft skills training program. And I don't want to get too much into that, but it's been very successful. We have things such as group discussion, resume building, aptitude testing. So of those components, I really sat and thought, okay, as a grade 12 students, what would be beneficial to you? And where am I seeing the shortfalls in the students? Like where can I really help you guys? So what I did is I picked three components, and I kind of put things together that I feel would be really beneficial to you moving forward as a grade 12 student. So one of the things we're going to cover is how to build a resume, a marketable resume. The other thing we are going to cover is LinkedIn profiles, and what are the benefits of LinkedIn. And the final thing we will cover is interviewing skills. So let's start with resume building first. Just one more thing before I start. The reason one of the other reasons I picked these three things is because these are the things that I want you to start thinking about now. Just imagine how ahead of the pack you will be if you already have a great resume. You're already thinking about your resume. You were already thinking about LinkedIn, and you've been on LinkedIn, right? You're already doing these things now. Can you imagine just how powerful you will be when you're already at college, and you won't be fumbling around looking for resume formats? You're already connected on LinkedIn. So that's another reason why I picked these three components. So, okay, let's start. Resume building. I just love this. I don't know. It looks like Mr. Bean. I don't know. And this is what your resume shouldn't look like. So just a fun way to start. What not to do. Sid, can you move to the next slide? Why is a resume important? I'll tell you why. Because it's your key marketing tool. It gets you through the front door, right? That's what a good resume does. You want to be at the top of the pile. You don't want to be at the bottom, right? Every time you apply for a job, you want your resume to be a powerful source. It tells your story, right? And it will help you to land the dream job or internship that you want. Just a statistic here. I don't know if many of you know this, but an average recruiter spends 6 seconds looking at a resume. And I can tell you that's true, because especially for a fresher resume. I can get through it in nanoseconds. They are looking for buzzwords. They've created the job description, right? So they know exactly what they're looking for. And they have put keywords in there. They're going to scan your resume in nanoseconds and see how many of those buzzwords appear in your resume. And that's literally how little time you have to make an impact. So that kind of tells you, how and why your resume is important. Sid, can you move to the next one? Sorry, Sid, yeah, thank you. Right, this is very, very basic information. So obviously, I'm sure all of you have seen a resume, and it's a pretty standard, most of them now come in a pretty standard format. And this is what you will see right at the beginning of a resume. It'll have your name, it will have your address, it will have your phone numbers, very basic things, your email ID. Please pick either your school or your college email ID, or you pick a Gmail ID that just has your name and digits. I have seen this in the past where you've got, okay, choose Annika, or, it has to be a professional email ID. And if I were you, I mean, it has to be the one that you look at frequently, but usually your college or your school one looks the most professional. In today's world, you would probably put your LinkedIn profile there as well. I have seen that. I would advise you only do that if you have a LinkedIn profile that is complete, that you are active on it. The last thing a recruiter wants to do is go and look at your LinkedIn profile, which you have put in there, and then there's nothing there. It doesn't look good. So if you are going to put in a link to your LinkedIn, make sure that it's a good profile, it's a complete profile, and it tells your recruiter way more than what you put in your resume. I'll get to LinkedIn a little bit, obviously into the session. What you can't see there is I put a question mark by photos. I am a believer in not putting your photo. I'm a very old school. In the beginning of my career and even to date, I very rarely see photos in resumes, and especially at ISBF, it's an eco-finance management, EMFS kind of subjects. So they're usually going to professional companies. You're usually going to, a research firm or a data analytics firm. So photos aren't particularly important. Yes, perhaps in the creative field, I would say it is doable, but it is my opinion. I feel photos are not necessarily, they're just not necessary. And why have someone judge you on a picture? It does happen. It's not required. But, again, a resume is a very personal thing. I can give you my advice. I give ISBF students advice every day on what I think their resume should look like. But ultimately, as I said in the beginning, it's your story, not mine. If you feel you want to put certain things in there, then certainly you should go ahead. This is just a framework that I'm using to give you, and then you can add and take things away as you wish. Sid, next slide, please. I'm so sorry for this. I was unable to. Right. So what is an objective statement? And I've seen this many times. A lot of students used to do this. I'm not sure I'm seeing it so much these days, but still it is something that is out there. So an objective statement is basically a statement you'll see right under the address, the name, and it says, I am looking, or a fresher looking for an excellent data analyst position at a top MNC firm. Well, nobody cares what you're looking for, I hate to say, but recruiter doesn't care what either you're looking for or what you want. You have to tell them what you are giving them. What do you bring to the table? So an objective statement traditionally is you telling the recruiter, you telling your company, this is what I'm looking for. But honestly, like I said, they don't care, and it can be a pet peeve for some recruiters. So you are going to replace that with something else called a summary statement. What's a summary statement? It's basically, as a fresher, as a college student, you'll be going into your first year soon. It would probably be 3 bullet points at the most of what you bring to the table, right? So it'll be it's a snappy elevator pitch, 30-second. Okay, when you go down my resume, this is what you're going to see. This is what I am. And it's great, honestly. Like, I love them because it quickly tells me, okay, this is an economics, a fresh economics major or whatever, has great communication skills and, whatever you bring to the table. I prefer that because it's almost like a snapshot of your resume, and it quickly tells me this is what the person is about. And then when you look down the resume, it will have obviously all your further details. So my advice is, and I stand by this one, I really do think that if you've been taught to put an objective statement, replace it with a summary statement. Thank you. Sid? And this is a great example. This is exactly what a good summary statement will have. This says, let's read this one. It says, enthusiastic graduate having a postgraduate diploma in economics, an expert in implementation of each step of the project. There's a soft skill there. A demonstrated multitasker, another soft skill. Highly motivated to learn new things, excellent oral and communication skills. This is what a good summary statement would look like, especially for, and I try to create something that you could use as a, as a college student, about to go into their first year. Sid, could you move to the next slide? Again, very basic information. This is education. Ideally, until you're way down into your career path, usually for you guys, and for pretty much, even if you're in your third year of college, it will have your education qualifications first, and then you will list your work experience. As you, I would probably say safely 3 to 5 years, not 5, but 3 years down into your work ex, when you've got 2, possibly 2 jobs, you would switch it around, and then you would bring your education down, and you would bring your professional qualifications up and the positions you've done. So it just switches depending on how further down your career you are. I put a question mark by this. Should you list your grades? I have this conversation with students all the time. And first of all, it depends on which system you did, whether you did A levels, whether you did, the Indian exams, and what percentages you've got. And again, this is a really personal choice. My benchmark is usually 85% and above. A's, B's and above, you would list if that's what you have. And if you did get anything below that, it's your personal choice. Or if the recruiter has requested you put it in your resume, then yes, you would put it in. Again, it's just a benchmark that we follow. 85 and above, yes. B's and A's, yes. And anything below that, think about it. Because
iASPIRE.
Sorry. Okay, next slide. So this is, as I was explaining, right now your education as grade 12 and you're going into college, that will be more important, but you still need to know, once you get your professional experience and once you get your first and second and third internships, this is how you are going to list them. Again, it's very, very standard. You'll put your company, and I think now I'm also seeing a lot of people put the URL of the company, which I guess it does help if it's an organization that somebody is not well aware of. You can go into the website and have a look. So it definitely is something that is handy. Do put it in if you have it, why not? Again, very basic things, start and end date, and your job description you would put in. I always, and again, perhaps, you know, if you've done a longer internship, once you've done 2 to 3 internships, and but definitely after you have your first job, is not just the job description. And another thing I would advise you is don't just cut and paste the job description that you had, because you can tell it's, you know, it's something that you really shouldn't do. Under your job description, you would really want to put your achievements, right? Really sit and think about the job that you did. What did I accomplish in that job? What were the contributions I made? For example, I had a student who had started the entire social media for a company, for an internship that she had done. And when she did that, she had got more customers. You know, so she started as an intern, she set up their Instagram, she set up their social media, and in turn she got more customers for that company. So you know, job description, yes, but as you start building your resume and it's no longer a one pager, and you really got things to say, put your achievements in there too, okay? And vet them out, really think about them, and you know, what did you bring to the table of that company? Sid, could you change? Thank you. Soft and hard skills. Gosh, if I had a dollar for every time I hear these words these days, it's really, this is what everybody's talking about right now. What hard skills do I need? What soft skills do I need? Especially because of this whole post-COVID situation. I am a big believer in soft skills. I really am. And I was a big advocate of the placement module when ISBF put it in place. And, you know, with my colleagues, we created it, and it took a long time for us to put into place. And, you know, what modules are we going to put in? What modules are important? When it comes to your resume though, you do list them. I've seen people list soft skills in a list. These are the soft skills I have, and then they list them down. That's also fair enough. And again, it's your resume. It's how you want to do it. A smarter way to do it, and this can only, the smarter way to possibly do it is weave it in and out of your resume, okay? You know, it's difficult to explain this, but okay, say for example, you had an internship, okay, and you took the company minutes, and you were a multitasker. So you would put it in there, right? It shows me you can multitask. It shows me you're a good, you have good writing skills because you were taking company minutes. And you know, you would weave it in and out of your resume rather than listing them. And as I promise you, as you move into your, you know, into your internships and into your college, you know, after you've done your college, you get your first couple of jobs, you will be, okay, what do I put in? What do I don't put in? Right now, it's the opposite. What, you know, how do I fill out my resume? But soft skills, you will start learning this. If you feel comfortable right now listing them, list them as a you know, grade 12 student, as a fresher, you know, as a first year student at college. But then as you move on, start learning to, you know, for example, you put them in the achievements part, right? You can weave in your soft skills and your technical knowledge in the achievement section of your job description. That's what I'm talking about. And that's a sophisticated resume. But that sophistication can only come with experience, and you will get that. And you're going to only get that once you've got your first couple of jobs and internships under your belt. I see a question, and it's relevant here. Ishwarya, can you explain that a little more? Any section that you want to cover, or you can just come on audio quickly.
Hi, ma'am. I'm Aishwarya.
Hi, Aishwarya.
Ma'am, my question is that since we are grade 12 students, rather the soft skills or the hard skills are very limited to us. So while applying for our internship at this point, like what are the requirements that we have to put in so we have a competitive edge?
So Ishwarya, these are things you should, is a really good point. I'm glad you brought these up, right? You guys won't have any you're probably looking for your first internship. So what is important is, what about your college? What are you doing at, in your school activities, right? What societies are you all part of? Are you helping to organize anything at your school? Are you actively involved in MUN? Right, let me give, that's a good example. If any of you are involved in MUN, that's a great way to tell me that you're a good communicator. And it takes dedication to be on MUN, right? It shows me a lot of things, for example, that you're a multitasker, that you're a good, you can speak, you can write well. So you probably would use your school societies and what you're doing, your extracurricular. Are you part of any NGO? Are you helping? Those things will give you a slight competitive edge to get that first internship. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, so you will be drawing on your school experiences and what you're doing at school, and what you're doing outside. I have a student who is he's on state level cricket. That means he gets up at 5 o'clock every day to go play cricket. That tells me a lot, right? It's not always just about your grades. And your technical knowledge, again, that will come with time. Usually at this point, most of you will just be proficient on Excel. You'll be proficient in Microsoft Word. You'll be doing things like that. But then as you move on in career, like a lot of my students right now are doing R, they're doing Python. They will be doing all that kind of stuff. So that's really the technical knowledge. So for now, your proficiencies in Microsoft, and if you do have any coding, any accounting, I know a lot of you have some accounting experience, you can do all of that. Okay, Sid, if you could move on to the next slide. Foreign languages. Aishwarya, you're asking me what gives you a competitive edge. I don't know how many of you, I know a lot of you are playing the ukulele, but how many of you are actually doing a foreign language? Anybody here doing a foreign language?
I am.
What are you doing, Shreyas?
Even I am.
Wow, okay. So, Spanish, Simran's doing Spanish.
Even I'm doing Spanish.
Take these, and if I can give you any advice, take these to the next level. I am so far into my career, and I did IGCSE French, and then a couple of years ago I was like, I was always quite good at French, and I just wanted to take it to the next level. So I went to a Alliance Française here, and I went and got 2 certifications in French. It looks damn good on a resume. It really does. Because it's something, and again, going back to Aishwarya's question, it gives you competitive edge, a foreign language. So if all of you, Simran, I know you just said you're doing Spanish, Sneha also, these things, if you can take them to the next level, will give you something. And, in your first job, who knows, they could put you in a project in another country. It does happen. These will give you the edge that you need. Hobbies, oh God, don't list every hobby you have. There is nothing more, I wouldn't say, not irritate. Don't list, let me put it this way, don't list every hobby you have. Reading, pick the ones that you are passionate about and that you can actually talk about. If you're going to put reading, that's fine. You may be an avid reader. So then say the genre that you're reading so that you can talk about it, right? In your interview. And I'll give you another what not tip. Many years ago, I had a student who put the fact that he had got a PS4 for his birthday and he loves to play PS4. And that was his hobby. And I made him take it out, obviously. So there's a lot of what nots to do as well. Speaking from experience, I love to see things other than just grades because I want to know more about the person. So the more interesting your hobby is, you don't go out of your way to find an interesting hobby, but I'm just saying, if you have something interesting, write it. If you're an avid hiker, an avid mountain biker, you play guitar, you love music, you love Spanish, you're learning Spanish, put that down. And I'll tell you why this is an important reason. Sometimes two candidates can be neck and neck, right? I have two people in front of me. I'm sitting discussing who we are going to hire in a meeting. So in terms of the education, they're right here. But then what happens is when I see their interest, and I had managed to strike up a conversation because that person loves marathon running like I do, that person may, I'm not saying you will get the job, but I'm saying that that little conversation we had, that little bonding we had over something that we do in person can land you the job, okay? And also skills-based volunteering, you guys would be very familiar with this, right? You know, you're going to, if you're part of an NGO, and a lot of students who are actually going abroad, this is a big one for them. What NGO are they part of? What are they, you know, what are they doing? You know, so I like seeing NGO things. I find the people that, and again, this is a generalization, but it is true. The people who set up the NGOs, who are volunteering, I find them very compassionate people, and it's not just about your grades. I had a student who had set up a school for autistic children, and he did that because his brother was autistic, and he had 5 students and he ended up with 25. These are the kind of things that I'm talking about, again, that can give you that edge at such a young age, at such a young career. Sid, could you move to the next slide, please? Oh gosh, this is a big one. Proofread your resume. If you can't proofread it yourself, get somebody else to read it. You have to. I don't know how many of you were on the panel discussion on the COVID panel, but there was Samir was there from Coca-Cola and Ritika was there from HR, and literally they said that they would just delete the email, an email that has mistakes requesting an internship. If you can't get basic grammar, spelling and punctuation right, your resume will go from here, even if you are 3 A's and you know 95%, it'll go from here to here, okay? So please bear that in mind. It's a pet peeve of mine, and I would probably say 99% of recruiters do your resume and definitely have a third party read it from an objective point of view and from a proofreading point of view. So that's what I have on resume. So I hope that, you know, a lot of this, I know you're in grade 12, I understand, you know, but I promise you, it is never too early to start thinking about your resume. How many of you actually have let me ask 2 questions. How many of you here have a resume, and how many of you have a LinkedIn profile? Anybody here?
Mom, I have both.
You do, Sean? Great. So you have both?
Yes, ma'am, but my LinkedIn profile is very brief.
That's okay. I'm going to help you build that. In the Vasu. Oh, great. I see Sneha also has one. Awesome. Okay, so good. I see four or five of you definitely do have a resume. Ishwarya, you have a LinkedIn profile. Okay, so all of you are starting to think about these things. So that's awesome. Let's move on. Time is pending to LinkedIn profiles. Okay, so like a resume, your LinkedIn profile is your business face to the world, right? That is your professional face. And today, more than ever, your LinkedIn profile is really important. And I'll tell you why, because there's been a change post-COVID, and so many people now are going to be working from home, and the whole work dynamic, the whole workforce dynamic has changed. And the second thing is that recruiters do look to your profile on LinkedIn to find out who you are. And if you don't have an online presence, it doesn't look good. It really doesn't, not in this day and age, because we all know what you're really doing. You're really on Snapchat and TikTok and God knows what else, but your LinkedIn profile is the one thing that hirers and recruiters look at before they, or maybe after they look at your resume. And again, if you're looking at two candidates where the resumes and the profiles are looking similar, the LinkedIn profile can tip it to your favor if you have a good one. So that's my advice. So if from now on, I want you to spend less time on your Facebooks, your Instas, your Snapchat, and TikTok anyway has been banned, and start at least looking onto your LinkedIn profile, maybe once a week. Just keep adding to it, just keep playing around on it, and just see, you know, a little bit into that. Sid, can you put the next slide up, please? This is for, I don't know if Mahi is on, but this was for all you Friends fans. So you can see the various social platforms, and I want you to be concentrating on the first one, her LinkedIn profile. So that was just a little bit of humor. Sid, next slide. Sid, just 1 second, if you go back, just look at the statistics. This is Strathclyde University, and it is it's from a UK point of view, but you can just see, I mean, just how much is, you know, how many people are on LinkedIn and how, and you know, the one thing I wanted to just quickly, because I've remembered it here, LinkedIn now has a learning platform. So if you go onto LinkedIn, there's a LinkedIn Learning, and what it does, it'll give you a base. So it'll say how many minutes of learning do you want to do a week, and you can just say 30 minutes. And then there's many free sessions you can go on there, and just go and have a look. So go and see, you know, what do you want to do in your, you know, in your career. There could be a session on marketing, like Nikhil had done yesterday. There's many, I do them as well personally. It's a tab on LinkedIn, and it'll take you to the LinkedIn learning site. So that's another really good benefit. Free classes, they're 30 minutes, they're pretty punchy and good. Sid, could you move to the next slide? So here are the benefits of LinkedIn, right? I'm going to tell you a story about my experience with LinkedIn. So I'm old school. I'm a lawyer, very face-to-face person, prefer networking with a business card, meeting someone face-to-face, requesting a meeting and saying, okay, you know, can we discuss this? And especially in London, that's the way it was. And especially as a lawyer. So not only was I in a, you know, and possibly early on in my career, LinkedIn really wasn't around that much. So you would be part of so many societies and dinners and you know, and meetings, and you would go and you would network in person. And last couple of years, I was on LinkedIn. I've had a LinkedIn profile ever since I worked in the US. It's not that I didn't have one, but was I very active on it? No. And I came to ISBF, and I remember a colleague telling me, you know, Sonia, LinkedIn is amazing, and you know, and I said, yeah, okay, whatever. Still didn't have a belief in it. And then the lockdown happened. I just want to tell you that in the last 3 months, the amount of strong connects, not just connects, I'm talking strong connects that I have made on LinkedIn, I wouldn't have believed it had you told me. So I've gone from, you know, literally I had a good network, please, you know, don't take me wrong, but I went to over 500 plus. And I'm talking strong connects. Okay, not every one of that 500 is a strong connect, but I'm saying I made enough. You know, I really made progress on LinkedIn, and now I'm a whiz on LinkedIn. So I can, and this is in a lockdown period. So can you imagine how useful it can be when all this, you know, hopefully, you know, goes away soon. So it helps you build your professional network, right? And again, even in grade 12, start connecting to your classmates, start connecting to your professors, get your professors to write you a recommendation, to give you, you know, validation on your LinkedIn. Today, these people are your classmates, but tomorrow, your friend, he could be working in a company that you want to go and work for, right? So it's never too early to start networking. And I can tell you, if there's one thing you take away from here, is build your network. That if there's one thing you take away, okay, resume, all that, great. Networking is the strongest tool that you can imagine, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's going out and meeting people. To build your professional network is the single most important thing you can do in your career. And I want you to take that away today. The other thing I would advise you to do, especially for all of you, again, being in grade 12, is check out career paths, right? Go and look at some of the companies that you want to work for and the heads of those companies, right? So if I want to get into data analytics, I'll go and look at a company and okay, this person is, he's the CEO of this data analyst company, or he's a manager there. What career path did he follow what career path did he follow to get that position? What courses did he do? What are his, how did he get to the position he did? It will help you guide your own career path. It also helps you prepare for interviews. Tomorrow, if you get an internship interview, what you can do is go and look up the person who's interviewing you, or what you can also do is go and look at the CEO of that company. What are they doing? And it's a great way to strike up a conversation in an interview. What you would do is if the CEO is very big on corporate social responsibility and he's doing a project on that, you can bring that up into your interview. Whether you're interviewing with the CEO or not, it looks good that you've researched the company. Are they doing a lot of things for women's initiatives or programs like that? So it does help you prepare for your interviews. Another way you can use LinkedIn for an internship as well. Sid, next slide, please. Again, very obvious. It can, go research the company that you want to look at if you are looking for an internship with that company. I think I covered that in my last point. It also helps you gain connections from conference. So just imagine, right? You've come on this summer workshop. You've met so many industry leaders, right? You met Nikhil yesterday. You met Vikas, Mr. Katuria, Chirag sir. You've met so many people who have a prominent career. What you are then going to do, all of you, and I'm expecting a LinkedIn request very soon, you would go and you would establish that contact, on LinkedIn. You've attended this workshop. Now make use of it. Go on LinkedIn and connect to all these people that you've met, because you know what? 3 years down the line, I could be working somewhere else. So could somebody else. But that, Sean, oh yeah, Sean did Spanish. I remember Sean, or so-and-so played ukulele, and I remember I met them in an iASPIRE workshop. These these little connections really help. So even today, go away and think about, okay, who are all, just imagine the number of people you've come to contact in the last 2 weekends. It's pretty phenomenal. And then you want to keep those connects and keep in their minds. I'd mentioned this before. It's the LinkedIn profile is actually an extension of your resume, right? If you are going to put it in your resume, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is complete. Okay, I said that before. And the useful thing about LinkedIn is it gives me much more information about a person. As a grade 12 student or as a fresher, you will probably have a one-page resume, I would imagine at this point. But there could be a lot of other phenomenal things you're doing. You've got certifications that are up there. You've actually got an image of the certification. You're doing LinkedIn learning. So it's a great way to just be, it's an extension. It's a good way to look at it. It's an extension of your resume. It's a good way to research companies. Again, like say, for example, you want to be into policy research, go and look up all those government agencies that you want to work for. Go on LinkedIn and start looking at these companies. It's a very basic point. I'm pretty sure most of you would know that, but anyway, it's never a bad thing to reiterate something. Sid, could you move to the next slide, please? Right. So any questions on LinkedIn? Okay. Let's move on to effective interviewing skills. And again, I picked this one. It is, you know, interviewing is a really age-old process. Interviewing, you have to interview for everything, and you have to do it right from grade. You will do grade 12 college applications. You know, you'll be doing it for internships, and it's even, you know, when we were doing this at ISBF, it's one of the places where I felt the biggest shortfall was for students. It's something you really, really need to master, is interviewing skills. And yet you'll be nervous for your first, you'll be nervous for your second, by your fourth, your fifth, you'll get it, you'll have it down. And I just want to give you a couple of tips in this. And again, the reason I'm doing this is because of where I've seen the shortfall in my students. And I don't want, you know, I think you could learn this very early down the road and not go through the things that they've had to go through. Treat an interview as if it were an exam. It really is like an exam. Don't put that same pressure. Try and have fun in your interview. But it is, you know, the preparation part. I think that's what I mean. Treat the preparation part as if you were doing an exam, okay? And then the single most, I would say, flaw that students have is the fact that they don't plan. They don't plan the interview. They don't prepare for it, okay? You have to research and let's go through these things that you should go through, right? You need to research the company and every single facet of that company. Do not walk into an interview and say, oh, I didn't know RSA had a data analytics division. Well, data analytics is a huge part of insurance, and it's a huge part of actuarial science. You should know that a company like RSA would have a data analytics division. So that's a really, you know, a common mistake. You know, you'll be out of the front door. You might as well let yourself out the front door if you're going to make a mistake like that, where you just don't know what the company does and everything it does. I've mentioned this point before. Research, you don't have to, but if you can find the profile of the company head, the department head, you know, even the person you're interviewing on LinkedIn, it just gives you that little bit of edge. You know, you also feel more comfortable knowing the background of the person who's interviewing you. It does help. One of the this is one that I've seen go wrong so many times, the job description. I can't tell you the number of times, probably two of the biggest flaws. One is the fact that they do not read, they don't know what the company does in its entirety. And the second thing is that they don't know the job description. You need to study that job description, because you have to talk about it, you have to know your resume and align the two, and you have to align the two in the actual interview. So please, whenever you even going for an internship, make sure you know exactly what they're asking of you and that you have the skill set for that. Sid, can you move to the next slide, please? Let's see. I think I just made that point. Review your own resume, right? Because you will be, you need to know the job description, the resume, and the two have to mirror when you actually go to an interview. This is one important point, and I'll tell you who brought this up. I had a guest lecture by Sonali. She's the head of HR for Bain & Company. And I think there was a question that had come from one of the students, something, I can't remember what the exact question was, but I know what the answer was. And she said, please do not falsify statements in your resume, because it will come up in your interview, right? When you falsify anything on your resume or you build it up to something that it's not, it comes up in your interview. Every recruiter is experienced in knowing when somebody is not telling the truth. And that, again, it goes back to your resume, right? So don't put it in your resume if you can't back it up, because it will come up in an interview. And then when it gets face to face, it can become a very awkward situation. So that really is a pet peeve of recruiters. Don't falsify anything on your resume that you then can't talk about. You know, don't say you've traveled to X, Y, and Z places and then you've only been in Pan India, for example. You know, that's just a very easy example, but that's basically what I'm trying to get at. There are a lot of, and I can help you with this if any of you need this. I have a standard interview format. Now, usually what happens is, what I'm seeing more and more today, especially in the eco, finance, and management interviews, is there's usually a technical, especially for the data. I know I had a lot of students go for data analyst positions. So there's a technical interview, and then there's an HR interview. It really just depends on the company. Companies can do it that way, or they can just have one single interview. There are standard questions that the HR interview will have. You know, why, okay, say for example, why KPMG? What differentiates KPMG, and what interested in this position? What interested you in this position? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Give me an example, whether you, of a time when you've been on a team. Another standard question, are you a team leader? Are you a team player? And I'm sure I have them if you need them from me, but there are standard 30 questions or so that are very, very, you can see in a lot of interviews, pretty standard HR interviews. And anyway, I think as a grade 12 student, you certainly wouldn't be getting any of the difficult interview questions to begin with. So happy to hand those out to you. Next slide, please, Sid. Yes, just a few more examples of, okay, the standard questions. This is really basic, and you may think it's basic. Prepare your wardrobe. Always, always business casual. That means, for me, it always means a suit. I'm sorry, because you can never be, again, unless you're in the creative field, it's, I would rather see someone in a suit, honestly. If it's a a girl, then skirt, suit, whatever, if you can manage that, and you'll be using that in every interview anyway. So I would say invest in a good suit, because you will need it throughout your career. If not, and I understand, being a student, maybe even business casual at your point in this, in your career, even a business casual is okay. Very small things like tie your hair back, closed-toed shoes, no sandals, very, very basic things. But these are things that people forget, I promise you. And your first impression is your last one. Remember that. That's something my father taught me as well. He was the managing director of a company. Always, always presentable, always. So, and just imagine in an interview, you've not met that person for the first time. Just make an impression. Again, these are very, you may think these are very sort of, they're minor points, but I can't, these are things that students do forget. What do you actually bring to an interview? I'll tell you a pet peeve of mine, another one I have many, sorry, but I think it's just the Brit in me. Copies of a resume, right? You get the number of times I've requested, oh, where's your resume? I don't have one. Now I have to go to my laptop, open their resume. So always take about 3 to 4 extremely clean, crisp copies of your resume, preferably on premium, slightly, resume paper. All these small things matter. You may not think that, but people are looking, people are judging, and it's a very judgy society right now, for lack of a better word or phrase. So please do that. You will be asked for it. I can assure you. Nobody's going to sit there fumbling around trying to find your resume. You need a copy of the job description, because if they raise a point that you may have forgotten, and it can happen, you might be nervous, or the job description may be long. That's another point. Take a copy of the job description, a notepad and pen, very, very basic. Sid, if you could move to the next slide. The other thing, there was one thing I'd forgotten in what to take. Hopefully I'll remember in a bit. Body language. This is, again, all these, I'm giving you all these small tips where I've seen students you know, these are the things they could have done, and they would have got 70% instead of like maybe 55 or 60. Sit up straight and show you're interested, okay? Here's another tip I can give you. I've conducted a lot of interviews where there were 2 people, and when my partner was talking, they were only making eye contact with the person who was speaking. That is incorrect. When you have a 2-member panel or a 3-member panel, even if one person is asking the question, the eye contact has to be with all 3 people. Please make sure you do that. It is really off-putting seeing a candidate. Obviously, if there's a one-to-one, the eye contact will be there, but often there's more than one person. And if you're not making eye contact with the entire panel, it's really off-putting and it's disrespectful. It actually is. So just bear that in mind. And the other thing quickly is body language. Don't move your hands around too much. Don't fiddle too much. I'm not saying sit upright and be, you know, be comfortable, but just try. I actually did have that feedback for a student who was, she was nodding too much, she was waving her arms too much, and it just looks complacent is the word I would use. So body language, try and tone it down a little bit and just sit comfortably, be comfortable, but not too much use of hands and things. The last thing quickly I need to get through is your thank you email. It is, honestly, it's a must. It's just standard. I'm not sure, you know, people do still ask me, ma'am, do I have to send a thank you email? Yes, you do. Again, it completes the entire circle of an interview, and it's polite. It shows that you have good manners, that you're mindful, that you're interested in the position, and you're eagerly awaiting for them to, you know, say, yes, you've got the position. It really is a must. It may not get you the job, but you know, next time round, that person may keep you in mind, and it's just the absolute end gesture to an interview. And I think that is where I have to end the session. I am so sorry. I knew it was going to be a long one, but any questions on any of the 3 components that I went through? Arja, were you there?
Yes, Sonia.
Hi.
If you have any questions from
For any of the sessions, yeah.
Or my session, or even this one, feel free to unmute yourselves and go ahead and ask those.
Ma'am?
Yes, yes, Bhavin?
So you talked about the summary paragraph at the beginning of a resume and how that helps, you know, sort of encapsulate whatever we are. So do you think that rather than it being purely objective, it can be humorous as well? Because and after the few catchy lines we write, we can sort of what you said, after a few humorous lines, we can write what our accomplishments are. So how does humor board with, you know, recruitment officers?
Humor, give me an example. What would you write? Something that you would think.
It's really hard to think of something on the spot, but not something too atrocious or some of anything of the sort, but you know, a little light humor maybe.
Okay, Bhavin, I understand what you're saying. I would, okay, again, I'm very old school, and humor, okay, if you were going to put humor anywhere, it would probably be in your hobbies. Don't forget that when I mean it's a catchy, snappy paragraph, it's still a professional document, right? So think about what your document is. It's your resume, and it's your professional face. So I understand, you know, where you're coming from, but even if you were to entertain some humor, I would keep it in your hobby section, in your interest section. I possibly wouldn't start your summary statement with that, unless it's a catchy line like, you know, eager, fresher looking, you know, sorry, that would be eager, fresher, with excellent communication skills, or you know, loves to interact with people, something of that sort. But just remember it's a professional document. So humor would be either at the interview stage or at the interest level stage or your hobby section. I would try and keep it out of your summary statement, unless it's just a catchy one-liner that is still professional.
All right, thank you.
Ma'am,
Yes.
at the introductory statements, like you said, we need to add some points about ourselves. So can't we, like, if instead of writing good at this and more proficient in this, doesn't that make us look more overconfident or something?
No, not at all. Do you remember what I said, that I have six, and I can assure you, it takes me 6 seconds to go through a resume, especially a one-page resume, which is what yours will all look like in the beginning. And definitely not. And use your words, use your words wisely. And I'm happy to help any of you, I know you can reach out in Google Classrooms. I'm happy to help you formulate your statements. Not at all. It quickly tells me, usually what happens at ISBF, for example, is I have a counseling session with you and we go through your first draft of a resume. We talk about what you've done and I help you draft and I help you get to your third and fourth and whichever version of your resume we end up with. But not at all. If you choose your words carefully and you just treat it, look, I'm not sure how you guys write essays. Certainly when I was teaching at LSE, your introduction should be the conclusion. What are you going to talk about? That's how we were taught. So your intro is, this is what my essay is going to be like, and it's the same way with the resume. There's your introductory paragraph, but this is what my resume is going to highlight. So just, if you choose your words carefully, it won't sound arrogant at all.
Okay, sure. And you talked about some keywords. So what are those, like those recruiters look for? What kind of keywords?
The keywords, whenever you get your first job description or for an internship or whatever, there'll be a lot of buzzwords in there. You'll see them. Communication, but generally the buzzwords are the things they're looking for is communication skills, for example. In the hard skills, usually proficiency in at least Microsoft, right? It really depends, it really just depends on the job description. And here's another piece of advice I can give you is, and I have students who do this. I have economic students who are looking for research jobs and they're looking for data analyst positions, and they have to have 2 versions of their resume, and every time they apply for a job they have to tweak their resume for that particular position. But if you're talking really generally, then I would, the things I look for, forget buzzwords, but are things like a good communicator, a good organizer, a multitasker, an enthusiastic person, somebody who has interesting hobbies. Those kind of things may not necessarily be buzzwords as such. Those usually come out of the job description, but just generally.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Welcome. I believe we are all eating into your lunchtime. So if there aren't any more, and Archer, do the students have access to emails and things?
It's all on Classroom, Sonia.
Okay, great. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at them.
The recordings for yesterday and today, I believe, are being uploaded as we speak.
Great.
Today's will be made available in a few hours. Yesterday's is already, Navne's already.
Great. So then, guys, please feel free to reach out to me. If you want me to look at draft resumes, whatever you need, I'm happy to help. Thank you. Arjo, can I end the session?
Yes, Sonia.
Yeah, great.
We'll
You
meet
here at 1 o'clock for the session with Deep Kalra, who is going to talk about entrepreneurial career. And please, guys, have your questions. He does not do this very often, where he's speaking to a much smaller group of students or even a crowd. Thank you. Bye.